Hey, question. Have you ever heard of Parkinson's Law? It was created in 1955 by a British productivity author named Cyril Parkinson, who famously stated that work will expand to fill the time available for its completion. So, what this means is that if you give yourself, say, a week to complete a task that should take 2 hours, then psychologically speaking, the task will automatically increase in size, scope, and complexity to fill the entire week. So in other words, you'll end up finding ways to complicate it, to overthink things, to get overwhelmed, and just stress about getting the entire thing done. But if you artificially limit the amount of time you give to a task, say that you decided that it's a two-hour task, I'm going to give myself 2 hours at the maximum to get this done, you actually gain the time back while still getting the task done and arguably better than before. It's actually the time constraint that gives us the power and the motivation to get things done. In other words, deadlines really, really work. Now, let's talk about how this applies to your course. Most people set up their courses as a take as long as you want kind of experience. So as a result, there's no urgency or motivation for students to take action because they feel like they've got all the time in the world. But here at Experienceify, we always set up our courses with a fixed time limit. For example, we know that our Experience Product Masterclass course should take around 3 months, give or take, for most people to complete. So we add a 3-month countdown timer to the top of our membership site. Because we know that if we didn't impose a time constraint, our students would never get through it. They'd procrastinate. They'd start to overthink it. They'd get overwhelmed even before taking action. They'd find other things to do, and then a year would go by with no result. And that's actually what happens to the vast majority of courses and students. And it's part of the reason why traditional online courses have a staggering 97% failure rate. Now, I'm not saying this to make anyone feel guilty, not at all. I just want to acknowledge that this curious psychological effect happens to all of us, no exceptions. When there's no deadline, we just don't prioritize it. That's just how it is. And when you know this, when you understand how human beings work, you're able to put measures in place to help students get the results they want. That's why we highly recommend adding a countdown timer to your membership site that ticks down to the end of the course. All you need to do is decide on the realistic amount of time a student should need to complete the course or program material. It doesn't matter if it's 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 months, or longer. Just pick a time frame and try not to be overly generous with the time that you allow. It's weird and a little counterintuitive, but most of us do our best work when there's a deadline looming. So once you have an amount of time in mind, then add it as a countdown to the top of the membership site for that amount of time and set it to begin counting down from the moment a student invests. We make this possible with a single click here in Experienceify, and this one small thing can actually have a huge impact on course engagement and consumption by adding a very, very visible and obvious time constraint to your course experience. Human beings simply can't ignore a countdown, even when we know that a deadline is artificial. And that feeling that time is ticking away triggers a real sense of urgency and desire to avoid loss, and really helps your students to prioritize what they need to do without wasting time on what's not important. So you can set up your countdown in one of two ways. You can see here on the screen that we have 2 different modes. One is live and one is evergreen. The live mode is when you have a cohort of students who are all going through the course at the same time in real time. So let's say that I was going to be running my course for a group of students between the 1st of January and the end of January. So it was a 31-day course. So I would set this up to be a live countdown, and then I would count down to the 1st of February at midnight. And that would set up a countdown. You can see here, it's got a countdown here for 34 days because today is just a few days ahead of the 1st of January. So as students join my course here, they're going to see, if they join today, they would see 34 days left on the countdown. So that will let you count down to a specific date and time as a live countdown. So if you had a course that people can join any time of the year, we call that an evergreen course. And we have this evergreen countdown mode where you can set up how long the countdown should go based on the day that somebody joins your course. So, for example, you could set up a countdown to countdown to 1 month at midnight. So if I set this up, you can see here it changes now to 30 days. Now that means that if someone joined my course now, they would have 30 days to get through the entire course. So if somebody joined in a month from now, they would still have the same month to get through the course. So you can see how that works. You can set whatever time frame you want here. So you would set between 1 and 20 days, weeks, and months to a certain time. And that will allow you to set up the countdown that will show on the homepage of the membership site so that students will see it every time they log into the course. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope you use the countdown because we've proven that it adds a tremendous amount of student engagement to your course.